I will present my work, which is currently under review. This is title of the talk is Extratropical Pacific Influence on ENSO Variability. Here, my collaborator, journalist from AOML, my postdoc advisor. And this is, I will first give a small introduction of what is ENSO. ENSO is a El Nino and Southern Oscillation. This is a Pacific phenomena. So normally over the Pacific, the tropical Pacific, there is a easterly wind prevail. This easterly wind push the upper warm water toward the West Pacific and pile up the western warm water in the West Pacific and deepen the thermocline in the West Pacific. And associated with this warming, there is a strong convection over the Western Pacific. Where in the Eastern Pacific, there is a upwelling which carry the cold subsurface nutrient water and make the East Pacific SST cooler, and due to this upwelling the thermocline is shallow there. So in normal condition this has a east-west SST gradient along with a strong thermocline gradient which is tilted upward in the East Pacific. And during the El Nino condition, this easterly trade wind get weakened and sometimes reverse, and there is a westerly wind anomaly is seen in the tropical equatorial Pacific. So this relaxation of the wind pushes the warm water from West Pacific toward the Eastern Pacific along with the convection, and this also flatten the thermocline over the tropical Pacific. And La Nina, which is a more extreme of the neutral state, so easterly are stronger than the normal, and this easterly pile up more warm water in the west. That's why more convection in the west, and where as the stronger upwelling in the east make the East Pacific much cooler. So this is like intensify the east-west SST gradient and also the thermocline slope. Why we are concerned about the El Nino? Actually, it affects the weather around the globe. So this figure shows the global changes in the global precipitation pattern. So here this gray shaded area is showing the dry spell associated with El Nino, and the green shaded area is showing the wet spell. So you can see here there is a tremendous influence over the global precipitation pattern during El Nino, and which has a strong impact on socio-economical growth in these particular areas, and thus the prediction of El Nino is helpful for the global population. Now it is more and more like acceptable that there is a different flavor of El Nino. So no El Nino are similar. No two El Nino are similar to each other. So this is called the ENSO diversity or ENSO flavors. So this is has also in strong impact on the global precipitation pattern. So here I showed the two dominant mode of ENSO. So the left panel is showing the observed SST pattern, and the right panel is showing the CSM1 SST pattern. I showed the CSM1 because my work I use this model, so I'm showing the comparison between East Pacific El Nino, which is this warming where the mainly Eastern Pacific is warmer, and this has a strong horseshoe type of cooling over the western and the north south of the tropical Pacific. And whereas the recent time there is a different kind of El Nino is showing very prominent features where the SST is shifted longitudinally over the central and eastern Pacific. And you can see the main warming is mainly concentrated on the central and eastern Pacific, and this is called the Central Pacific El Nino or CP El Nino. So this contrasting SST pattern has a strong change the precipitation over the globe, where the Leader shows that the California rainfall is changing associated with the different kind of warming. Kang et al. Shows that the East Asian SST pattern, East Asian land precipitation pattern is changing with this different kind of warming associated with the ENSO. So this diversity of the ENSO is one of the biggest challenges in the ENSO prediction. So there are many mechanisms which explain the ENSO, but I will mainly talk about the mechanism associated with the extratropical Pacific. So mainly the North Pacific Oscillation. So the two dominant mechanisms are the seasonal footprint mechanism, which is heat flux driven, and mainly it has a thermodynamic couple processes involved with this. And the second one is the trade wind charging mechanism, which is ocean dynamic driven. So the ocean dynamic processes link the extratropical Pacific atmosphere to the tropical Pacific Ocean. So this North Pacific Oscillation is a winter time phenomena over the extratropical Pacific. This is a meridional dipole of high and low pressure. So the positive phase of this oscillation is associated with the low pressure in the extratropical Pacific, and that is associated with this type of cyclonic circulation, and this generate westerly in the extratropical Pacific, like north of the Pacific, and it reduced the prevailing easterly and warm the SST there in winter. But in summer, this though the North Pacific Oscillation is not there anymore, but this SST anomaly signature are persistent, and this called North Pacific Meridional Mode, and this influence the summer atmosphere and induce this symmetric westerly wind anomaly, which could generate a El Nino in the subsequent winter. So this is phenomena associated with thermodynamics. But the same wind pattern also generate a negative wind stress curve, which induce equator-ward mass transport and give charging over the central equatorial Pacific. Subsurface become warmer. This phenomena is called the trade wind charging, and this subsurface warming eventually propagate eastward and upward and warm the eastern Pacific, and which can again trigger the westerly wind anomaly and can generate El Nino warming in subsequent winter. So this North Pacific Oscillation give a 1 year lead time prediction for the El Nino with these two mechanisms. Now, the goal of this study is understand the relative role of the positive trade wind charging mechanism and positive seasonal footprint mechanism in generating a mature El Nino in a couple model setup. So most of the study has given them more importance in the seasonal footprint mechanism. So we will try to see which is the dominating, which has more dominating influence in generating El Nino through our model setup. Here I use the couple model. This is like an encourage community art system model, CSM1, where the atmosphere is CAM, atmospheric model is CAM, and ocean model is POP, and this is a couple with the Fox coupler. So initially we run the model for in a couple state for 200 years, and then to isolate the CSM, to isolate the TWC or SFM influence on the ENSO, we try to minimize the influence of the initial and boundary condition. So in first we choose the initial condition such a way that for a period of time the tropical Pacific has a neutral condition. So this black line is showing the November initial condition, which we took for our sensitivity experiment, and the following 1 year evolution. So you can see that for these particular years, the evolution of the tropical Pacific is a near neutral condition, and then we run the model from this initial condition. Now, to control the atmospheric boundary condition, to isolate the individual influence of TWC and SFM, we force the ocean model particularly with the associated flux, and the other all the fluxes we have kept as a climatological. So this is, we use a two-step model framework. In first step, from November to April end, we force the ocean model with the imposed offline force fluxes, and then in May 1st we turn on the coupling and run the model with a full coupling, which give the opportunity to anomaly generated in the control flux stage to evolve into excuse me, evolve into a mature ENSO event. So these are the two anomaly forcing which we gave the model. So the left panel is the wind stress pattern associated with trade wind charging mechanism, and the right panel is net heat flux pattern, which is associated with the seasonal footprinting mechanism, and these are our temporal model evolution. So November to April, we gave this forcing overlaid on the climatological fluxes, and then we start the coupling and allow this anomaly to generate to evolve in a couple feedback. So we have these three sensitivity experiment. In first sensitivity experiment, which we call plus SFM, where we only gave the anomalous net heat flux forcing associated with the SFM in the control flux stage. In second experiment, which is plus TWC, we gave the plus TWC wind stress forcing in the control flux stage, and in a third experiment, which is more realistic to the nature, where both the forcing is active. So this is we call plus SFM plus TWC. So this is my result, which is like I will show step by step. So first I will show the anomaly forced result. So this is the surface SST wind stress and SSH curl and subsurface anomaly pattern. The left panel is the plus SFM force ensemble mean. Middle panel is plus TWC ensemble mean, and the rightmost panel is plus SFM plus TWC force anomalies. So you can see that for the plus SFM, we have this kind of SST over the extratropical Pacific, which is called North Pacific Meridional mode, but there is not much, not any significant subsurface anomaly. Whereas for plus TWC, there is no flux anomaly given, only the wind anomaly, and this is given deeper than normal thermocline over the tropical Pacific, and thus has a strong subsurface warming. Where both the forcing is applied, the surface anomaly is a linear combination of the both the forcing. So this is has a flux and wind pattern, and the TWC, it has a similar subsurface anomaly, temperature anomaly pattern. So this in the fourth stage plus SFM plus TWC is giving a linear combination of the both SFM plus TWC forcing. Now we turn on the coupling and allow this anomaly to evolve in presence of couple feedback. And this figure compare the seasonal evolution of SST and wind pattern for these three experiments. I will go through one by one. So this is the plus SFM run. So as soon as the coupling start, this warming over the North Pacific generate a southwesterly wind anomaly south of the equator, and these help to propagate the warming toward the tropical Pacific in summer, tropical West Pacific in summer, and during summer actually the ITC is already in the northern hemisphere, and above that this warming is generate a off equatorial anomalous heat source, and this trigger this westerly wind anomaly over the equator, and this westerly warm the western Pacific, and this warming persists until September, October. But in September, October, it again generates more warming in the west, and it strengthens the easterly wind anomaly. Thus, that when it comes to winter, this warming is vanished due to this easterly become stronger. And this shows the subsurface anomaly associated with this forcing, which shows that there is no significant strong subsurface anomaly for plus SFM experiment. And now this is showing the pattern with the plus TWC ensemble. So you can see here that east, as soon as coupling turn on, the East Pacific is started getting warmer. Then why so? Because the springtime, there is a subsurface warming anomaly during the fourth stage, which eventually propagate eastward and get the eastern subsurface Pacific warmer, and due to the climatological upwelling, this warm water, anomalous warm water came to the surface and make the surface warming. And this set up a Bjerknes feedback and intensified the westerly in the early summer and intensified the warming, and this warming is persistent until the winter, where both the forcing is applied in the couple state. These are no longer a linear combination, but the plus SFM and plus TWC is showing a more stronger anomaly over the equatorial Pacific, and this warming is persistent also for a longer time. And the reason of the more persistent anomalies very much evident in the subsurface processes. So you can see that during the couple feedback, the subsurface warming is stronger in the plus SFM and plus TWC, and this is persistently giving a warm water supply and making the warming stronger and persistent until following winter. Now, to give a better and direct comparison of the equatorial Pacific, here I'm showing the time evolution of the equatorial Pacific SST. So time increasing upward. So you can see that the for SFM in isolation only generating a shortly when with the warming in the central Pacific. So this black circle is showing the center of the heat index, so which is for the SFM in the central and the mainly around the 180 degree east, where in the plus TWC the warming is generating a El Nino, which is peak the warming peak in the eastern Pacific. When both the forcing is applied, the warming is much stronger, and the persistence of the El Nino also is longer than the other two experiments. Now to check the means like to find how this warming is happening, which are the mechanism which is giving these dynamical and thermodynamical processes and helping to persist of the warming. So we did this mixed layer heat budget analysis. So temperature tendency here is combination of the heat flux, horizontal advection, and the subsurface processes. So the left is showing the so this figure shows for the SFM run. So left is the temperature tendency, then we showed the contribution from the net flux, then we showed the contribution of the horizontal advection, and the rightmost panel shows the contribution from the vertical advection. So for SFM run, the warming pattern, warming and cooling both are actually related to the horizontal advection. So, and there is very less contribution from the ocean subsurface processes. Whereas for the plus TWC, summer onwards, the warming tendency is mainly associated with the vertical processes, which is the rightmost panel, and then it triggered the westerly, and then the horizontal advection play roles, and this horizontal advection and the both vertical processes help the warming to propagate from east to westward. Whereas when both the forcing is applied, the vertical processes are very strong and it is persistent for a longer time, which is actually result of the stronger and more persistent El Nino. So it for the temperature tendency is mainly followed the vertical processes in the east, and this is actually means the net flux run is cancel net flux negative anomaly is cancelled out by these vertical processes in a warming. So here I compared the ensemble mean and spread to show that how different this warming pattern from each other. So we found that the plus SFM, which is this pink line for Nino 3.4 SST, is never significantly different from 0. But the plus TWC, which is this yellow line, and plus TWC plus SFM, which is the red line, both are consistently significant warming, and showing the significant warming which is persistent until the winter. Whereas the warm water volume, it is showing that the plus TWC plus SFM, this red line, the warm water volume is significantly larger than the plus TWC experiment when we turn on the coupling. So it is also proving that this is no longer a linear combination. This is acting as a very differently from the TWC forcing. Now to see that how the each ensemble is evolving. So here I showed the NDJ 1/2 Nino 3.4 SST, For like above panel is the plus SFM, middle panel is the plus TWC, and lower panel is the plus SFM plus TWC ensemble. And you can see that the red is showing the warm ensemble and the blue is showing the colder ensemble. So plus SFM, both the number of both cold and warm ensemble are same, but plus TWC and plus SFM plus TWC, the warm ensemble is larger, and also the only 15% of the plus SFM warm event are getting more than 1 degree Celsius warming, whereas for plus TWC this is like 50%, and like for plus TWC and plus SFM, this one is like almost 70% of warm ensemble getting higher than 1 degree Celsius warming. So based on this, our summary, we successfully isolate the influence of TWC and SFM mechanism on ENSO using our unique model framework. Plus SFM through thermodynamically coupled process produce an off-equatorial heat source which drive the equatorial easterly wind anomaly and generate a weak short-lived CP El Nino with a peak warming in the fall, whereas plus TWC through ocean dynamics processes successfully charge the central equatorial Pacific with a warm water, which subsequently advance eastward and upward along the tilted thermocline and generate a moderate East Pacific El Nino event to winter. When both the mechanism is active, a strong and persistent El Nino developed. While both the mechanism can trigger the equatorial wind anomaly that generate an El Nino, the strength and persistence of the warming depend on the subsurface heat content built up by the TWC mechanism. This result suggests that while dynamical coupling associated with extratropical forcing crucial for maintaining an El Nino, the thermodynamical coupling is a source of ENSO diversity. And I will just quickly show you the current ongoing work, which is study the role of minus TWC and minus SFM in generating and mature La Nina. So these run are completed, almost analysis is also done. And the second one is study the efficiency of plus TWC and plus SFM in presence of subsurface preconditioning. So instead of taking the neutral condition, here we took the already November condition where there is a subsurface preconditioning, which is this plot is showing the SSH pattern. So there is already a warm water volume in the equatorial Pacific, and these are the 6 green years which I showed that this is actually La Nina in the November, and we took this as a preconditioning, and we run the model from the initial condition, this initial condition with a different forcing to see how this this plus TWC and SFM forcing is showing a different result or not. So this is the ongoing work. And these are the publications. So I showed the work from the second one, which is under review in communication in art and environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Soumi. I think we have some questions already, and while I address the questions that were already typed in, if folks want to also unmute